Hello, reporter room investigators. My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to go through information related to criminals, related to crime scenes, and share with you how to do the same thing. So, welcome to Reporter Room. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to be discussing some new information that links Bryan Kohberger to the 1122 King Road house, not just on the day of the crimes, but on the 12 times leading up. It's better than GPS, and I'm going to share with you why in just a second. Also, we're going to talk about an oops moment that Ann Taylor had. We all noticed that BK left very abruptly after the hearing last week. Was this because he was upset with his defense counsel because she let something slip that she probably should not have? And we're going to be talking about the real reason that BK would have taken his cell phone with him that night rather than leaving it home. So everything I'm sharing is my opinion. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let me go ahead and put this on. We have so much stuff to get into. Come on in, guys. Come on in.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Davies.
I'd like to thank our producers, George Brown, Jane J., Sasha Angel, and our awesome channel members. If you would like to have your name appear just like this, just hit the join button and you too can become a channel member on Reporter Room. So we have a lot of stuff to dig into on this. So these are all our channel members. If you would like to have your name included, you'll be included on all the videos and on all the live streams. Okay, so I'm going to say hello to chat in just a moment, but let's go ahead and get started. So let me start with this. My source on this first one is the Chicago Reporter. And this is talking about the affidavit, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So authorities were delving into the digital footprint of BK. For those of you that don't know, he is innocent until proven guilty. He has not had his day in court yet, but I am talking about this case in terms of BK because he's the only one who has been put in jail, who has been indicted, and who has not been granted any bail. You know, a lot of people get out on bail. Casey Anthony got out on bail, and Robert Blake got out on bail. A lot of people get out on bail. He didn't get bail, and I think that's interesting as well. Why do you think that given bail in this case? What do you think? Leave me a comment and let me know. So authorities have been delving into the digital footprint of Bryan Kohberger, and they have put out a variety of different warrants. And some of these warrants have been very, very interesting. So according to one of the digital things, I'm just scrolling down here, we know that they've been trying to get Reddit, Google, and TikTok, as well as Snapchat accounts for the victims. Well, they were also getting apps related to BK. And one of the apps is very, very interesting. It's an app called Strava. Strava is an internet service. It tracks your physical exercise and performance, and it uses your geolocation, your contacts, your photos, your session logs. And guess who had Strava downloaded onto his phone? BK did. And you know what? Strava is better than GPS. So this is very, very interesting. It will help law enforcement build a psychological profile, but it's also maybe why law enforcement is now claiming that he was following the victims around town. What do you guys think? Let me go ahead and grab a little bit about Strava. Hang on one second. I have so many links open. And we're going to do just a quick overview on Strava, and then we're going to deep dive into why this is important. You guys should be able to see this. So this is the Strava app. It's one that just, for those of you that followed the Alex Murdaugh case, you know that apps like this helped them solve where Alex Murdaugh, where Maggie Murdaugh was. They were able to track her footsteps, right? So BK had this on his phone, and I'm going to prove it to you. Let me just grab this real quick. I'm going to show you proof. I don't want you to have to take my word for it. Okay. So here we go. This is the warrant. Okay. This is from the affidavit, February 26th. This is proof that BK did have a Strava account. So I just wanted to show you that. Let me say hello to chat, and then we're going to go into the Strava and why this is considered to be better than GPS, and why this is going to be a big problem for the defense team. I think it's going to help the prosecution put him at the scene. Let me know where you guys are from. May says, and please leave me comments what you guys think. It's going to have to be evidence that places him at the scene, and possibly evidence that will be found away from the scene. Yes, I agree, May. Truth Exposed said, according to Steve Goncalves, they have a video of the suspect getting out of his car and cutting through those woods into the house, an unreleased security camera. Very interested. Lisa says she wants to know any evidence of anyone else. Well, right now I'm doing this video, Lisa, but if you want to be more specific of evidence of what you're looking for, I would be glad to consider it. Njaz is here. A. Landon is here. The Jewel is here. Mike is here. We're going to have a great chat. Brother Mike is in the house. Jane is here. If you guys see these check marks, these are our channel members. Micro Kimmy's here. Zero's here. Great. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. Louise is from the UK. Allison is here. Pam is here. And Cynthia. I'm so glad you guys are here joining me today. Glitters and gold. The join button, Florence, should be right next to the subscribe button on your screen. DM is here. She says, I haven't heard that. I hope they have him irrefutably on camera. Well, I'm going to tell you something that Ann Taylor said. Mike is just reminding you guys to subscribe. Please subscribe and give this a thumbs up. It helps me out so much. Consider sharing this on your socials. Mace is here. No bail due to the GAF rule. Guilty. AF. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right, Mace. I think that the reason he doesn't have bail is because the evidence is overwhelming. Because they do let people out on bail in these cases sometimes, but in this case, there was no bail. So let's talk about that. And John is here. For DNA on the knife sheath and at the crime scene, no bail. You're right, Mike. I agree. And this is a different Mike, says, Steve is right. She will never be ready. There's no defense. And Allison says, but don't you have to enable that stuff? Yeah, and he had it enabled on his phone. Let's go back and let me just show you. First of all, this is what the Strava is. That's what the app looks like. And then this is the warrant for Strava. And this is proof that he had it on his phone. So let's talk about Strava. Why is this important? Why does this matter? Oh, excuse me. Let's dig into this. Okay, so the Latah County prosecutor, they demanded access to BK's social media on multiple things, including Snapchat, Reddit, TikTok, and Strava. And the reason I found that the Strava to be so interesting is because Strava says that they're better than GPS on following you guys, on following people. So this would have given law enforcement not only necessarily even on the day of the November 13th, but on those 12 cell phone pings that they have him leading up to when he went to the house, right? He went to the house 12 times. They have him on cell phone tower pings. I've seen a lot of people go, but cell phone tower pings aren't that accurate. No, but you start combining this with some of the other information, the blue snarfing that I shared with you, the Bluetooth that I shared with you, and now the Strava app, which I'm going to share why that's more accurate than GPS in just a second. So we know from the search warrant that his data was requested from Strava. This is an app used by athletes for recording, sharing, run information, biking information, power walking information. And this time will tell where he was. And remember, I shared with you last week that law enforcement source had claimed that he was following the victims, not at the house, but around town. How did they know this? And that's what got me thinking, how did they know where that he was following the victims around town? Was this security footage from months ago? No, I think it was this Strava app. So one of the things I found so interesting about Strava is, and we know BK did like to work out. He wasn't like a muscular guy, as Dylan described the guy. He was athletic. So, and I'm going to talk about why he would have used his own cell phone and also the slip up from Ann Taylor in just a second. Let's dig into Strava. Let me just grab this next thing for you guys. Okay, so this is the affidavit. I did show you just the thing on it. I just want to be like transparent. You guys can pull this up yourselves. Okay, you don't have to take my word for it. This just goes through everything, and we've gone through this together, so I'm not going to do it today. But I did just want to show you that this is where we got the Strava information from. But Ann Taylor messed up. She messed up. I'm going to show you why in just a second. So let me grab this. Okay. So this is the US Sun. And so this is the iconic photo that I told you. It usually has the picture of the two roommates, Bethany and Dylan, that Kaylee posted on her Instagram around 8 p.m. on November 12th and the hours leading up to what happened. So this is Detective Lawrence Mowbray said investigators needed the data from BK's social media platforms. He said that this is because of probable cause to believe that his accounts, including information related to the investigation into the crimes and burglary at the 1122 King Road house, where I'm watching my words, crimes occurred last November. This was according to documents. This would be in November of 2022. So prosecutors demanded that BK's profile, search history, username, every message, all his photos, all of the people he followed and unfollowed on social media. This is according to the warrant. So I just wanted to just show you proof that that's what happened. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Strava. So let me grab this. I just think this is so interesting. It just seems like the more I dig in, the more I find, you guys. Okay. This is ABC out of New York. So we don't know like everything they got off the Strava, but I want to share with you why Strava is considered to be better. But this is just, I just want to document among these new documents are search warrant applications for BK's accounts on Reddit, Google, TikTok, as well as additional records from AT&T and Snapchat. So I think this is really interesting that they're getting all of this stuff. And if you would like me to do a little bit of a deep dive into the Google or Snapchat, you can let me know. But I just thought the Strava was the most interesting because they say they're better than GPS. So records from Strava, an internet service which allows users to track their physical exercise and share their performance on social networks, was also obtained, filings show, including biometric information like exercise data, session logs, and here's the most intriguing part: GEO location data. GEO location data. So for everybody that said they cannot put him at the crime scene, well, I disagree. And I think this is how they knew. This is how they knew where he was. So let's talk about Strava for a second, and then we're going to talk about the oops that Ann Taylor did. But the GEO data, I just wanted to share that with you, and let's talk about Strava a little bit. Then I'm going to check in with chat. So Strava is a fitness app, and it appears that law enforcement was looking for anything that would show the movements, because we don't know if this car, this Hyundai Elantra, had GPS on it or not. And there's been a lot of talk that they won't be able to place him at the house. Those cell phone pings alone don't prove it. Well, so it looks like law enforcement may be able to prove it, because Strava is interesting because it uses techniques even more advanced than GPS. So, according to Strava's website, it has, quote, methods of calculating distance. And it says that Strava takes the distance data recorded in the file, parses it into a stream data to calculate the total distance, average speed, and max speed. So what they do basically, in other words, is they'll be able to add the information from BK's phone pings and line it up with the information from Strava. And they will be able to show his movements, not on the day of the crime, but maybe on the day of the crime, but also in the months leading up to the crime. So is this where the newspapers got this source that said that he had been following the victims around for months? So GPS, it's better than GPS because it allots for terrain differences, but it acts more or less like a GPS does in a vehicle, except Strava is on your phone. So it's wherever you're carrying it. And I'm going to talk about why BK would have taken his cell phone on the night of the crime. I don't think it was a mistake. I think he took a calculated risk. I'm going to share with you why in just a second. And I'm also going to share with you an oopsie that Ann Taylor made during the hearing. So also, according to Strava, there are two ways that they can calculate the distance. They do ground speed distance and a GPS calculated distance. So law enforcement can use this app to connect where BK was traveling, not even if he had the app off his phone on November 13th, in the days and weeks and months leading up to the crimes. They'll be able to show whether he was following victims around by following this app. They'll be able to line up those 12 cell phone tower pings with Strava. So they can use the app to connect the dots to where BK was traveling. And this will be one more thing for the jury to help, because this is going to be a circumstantial case. There's not a video of him doing it. So they have to show where his movements are. So Strava actually uses GPS data. So for all of us that were wondering if the car has GPS, now we're learning it doesn't matter. The prosecution's already on it. They've been on it, that this Strava will determine the distance. So it appears that BK was also using 3 different email addresses that we know about and 1 phone number. And we know, according to court documents, that law enforcement used cell phone data to link BK to the crime scene. They stated that his cell phone pinged at the 1122 King Road house, also on the 12 times leading up to it, but also at 9 a.m. on the morning of. So why did BK use his own car? I'm going to tell you why in just a second, and also tell you the oopsie from Ann Taylor in just a second. Let me just check in with chat for a second. I don't want to get too behind with chat. Let's see. Hey, Sirius Black. Sirius Black says, I agree. She's going to milk it for the money. I think they're talking about the Ann Taylor. His pulse rate that night must have been insane. May says, I had Strava. I removed it because it was too intrusive and other people knew exactly where I was. Exactly, Mace. Exactly. It knows more about you than your GPS does because you have your cell phone with you even when you're walking around, even when you're running. Brother Mike said, I've always said his digital information will be his end and it will tell a massive amount about him. Allison says, you know how apps always ask only while using the app, what if his cell phone was off? Well, even if it was off on the night of the crimes, and it's possible, it could have been in airplane mode, it could have been off, he could have removed it. It still explains what I was trying to figure out was how did law enforcement know he had been following the victims around? How did they know that? So that's what I was trying to figure out, and that's what kind of led me into this whole thing with Strava. Oh, this is how they know what his movements are. This is how they're tracking him. Hi, Renee. It's good to see you. Stacy says she wonders how much his dad knew. I don't know. Albarica's here. So drop your questions. Tell me where you're from. Welcome to our new channel member. Florence White became a member. We're so happy to have you as part of the Reporter Room family. So Kimmy says the pieces of the video Ann Taylor is requesting is more likely the 1122 King Road footage. It is recorded when there was a motion, so it's several recordings. Thanks, Tracy. I really appreciate it. I put a lot of time into it. That girl, I just want to thank you for your comment. Hello, welcome. So yeah, I do put a lot of time into researching. So if you guys want to consider becoming a channel member, please do. Like, share. And Claudine says they found his DNA at the scene. It was on the inside snap of the knife sheath. And it was in the octillion, which is a digit followed by 27 zeros. So really more than there are people on the planet. Tara is here. Good to see you. All right, let's drop your questions. So May said, I had Strava. Strangers were telling me exactly where I'd been, so I removed it from my phone. Yeah, well, he also had Strava. I just wanted to prove it to you guys. Mike says he went beyond being qualified for DP. He's talking about capital punishment. Glitter says creepy. It is creepy. It's almost like a little bit scary of how much our apps know where we are, but it's also good in that if something does happen to you, your app, will know where to find you. Hey, Jane. Okay, so Truth Exposed says request permission to put a video title in the chat. I don't know. Let's not do that right now. Virgo says they should check out the Katie Janice case because she was walking her dog in a park in the dark and someone did away with her and then jogged off. It was caught on camera. Well, this is going to be a little bit different in that it's not on camera. It's actually like a GPS device. And Stacy says Snapchat also has a location feature for filters and meeting people close by. Yeah, then they got that as well. If you'd like me to add Snapchat in, I will, but I have so much to dig into on this. I didn't want to add any more. Kimmy says, I'd be interested in that. Micro Kimmy says, Facebook and Insta along with Google will track your steps and locations down to a T. And Strava does it better than GPS. Claudine says, they have found his DNA at the scene. Yes, it's on the inside of the knife sheath snap, Claudine. And that was matched. I know Ann Taylor just wants to talk about, she wants to talk about the DNA they pulled out of the garbage, but they matched it to a DNA from his cheek swab. She doesn't want to talk about that though. But she messed up. She messed up, and I think that's why BK left early. I'm going to share that with you in just a second. Let me take a couple more things from quiet chat. Yes, there could be more DNA. There's a gag order. Well, we don't know. We just know about the one. We don't know if there's any more than that. I use Runkeeper, Grunstruck says. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, if you guys have used this app, let me know. Shelly says that's big. It is big. It's really, really big. So glad you joined. Truth Exposed said, what if Bryan had his iWatch or whatever on and forgot to leave it at home? I don't know. I haven't seen anything about that. But if I do, I'll bring it to you. But I haven't found anything like that so far. And I have been digging. Mace says, I had Strava. I was giving it was giving very accurate location data about me, calculating my average speeds and locations. Yeah, they claim they are more accurate than Google. So let me just tell you a little bit about Strava and what they say. Let me just show this and why this is such a problem. Okay, can you guys see this okay? Let me take this down and put this up. Okay, so it's very accurate with plenty of social features. So what is Strava? Strava is an activity tracking app that primarily tracks your GPS-based activity. Like any GPS app, it runs in the background while you do your thing. So you don't have to have the app turned on. It just runs in the background the whole time. So you can use it to walk, run, bicycle, hike, skate, kayak, snowboard, whatever, swimming. But the tracking activity is supposed to be seamless. It says, I took Strava for a 5-hour hike, thinking the hike would be great activity. But it seems like it worked well for tracking, but it had almost used my iPhone's battery power by the 4th hour. So, but it'll run in the background even if you're not using it. And this is why they grabbed it. So what about privacy concerns? Well, it's no secret that this is a location-based app that does have privacy settings. So how many of those did he have? And will that completely, even if he deletes it off his phone, they still have the phone. So this goes beyond just the basics of adding friends, sharing your activity, and liking and commenting. They say that you can sign up for any kind of challenge of any kind of activity for as day or as long as a month. So I think this is really, really interesting. What do you guys think about this Strava? So I just want to show you that BK did have Strava. I just want to this is the proof that affidavit that they got it. Okay, this is the officer I just told you about, Lawrence Mowry. I just showed you an article talking about him. This is proof that he had Strava. Okay, so let me check in with chat, and then we're going to talk about the oops that Ann Taylor made. Because she let something slip in the hearing. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it till later. And we're also going to talk about the real reason that BK took his cell phone with him. So we have a really good program today. And Jazz says, because sometimes the most intelligent kid lack common sense. Yep. I think we need to just let go of the trope that of the Silence of the Lambs kind of criminal mastermind that we kind of all are familiar with. Most of these guys that commit these crimes, and women too, they're just average intelligence. They're not smarter or less smart. Sometimes they are less smart. Sometimes they're not. But They're not criminal masterminds, even if they've studied criminology. Gruncher says he should have jogged to the house from a half mile without his phone. Mike says, I'm going to tell you why I think he brought the phone in just a second. I bet they asked BK some questions, was called out and lied, so then he shut up and got his attorney and ended up in jail. Stacy says, I wonder if his late night drives stopped after the 13th. That's a $1 million question, right? Ann Taylor said he loves to take late night drives, but she let something slip out. I'm sorry, but she did. Thank you to our mods. Thanks for reminding me, JJ. Thank you to our mods, our channel members and subscribers. Our mods are awesome at keeping the chat classy. Tim says his Strava account only had one entry and was on campus. There's nothing. It's a nothing burger and y'all are eating it up. You don't know that, Tim? You don't know that? I just showed you the one. That doesn't mean that's all law enforcement has, because again, even if he deleted it off his phone, they can still get it. Yeah, AT made a blunder, Ann Taylor. She did. Truth Exposed says when a psychopath or sociopath in predatory mode, that predatory rage negates any common sense or reasoning. He didn't stomp out of the room. I didn't say that. He just left really fast. And people were like wondering if he had to go to the bathroom. Like, why did he leave so fast? Well, I think he was mad. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Let me just get some comments. Grudge has never heard of a runner that lazy before. Truth Exposed says, plus in today's times, it's extremely hard to get away with your first crime, no matter your education in crime. Plus, he took 4 his first time. Yeah, and I just think it's wild. Kenneth is here. Hey, Kenneth says, just got here. Is there actually new proof that he was there? Well, Kenneth, you're going to have to back up the thing because I'm going through it now. So I'm not going to start over. But you can back up the live stream and watch it from the beginning. DM says, did he stomp out of there? No, I didn't say that, but he left really abruptly. And I'm going to share with you why. Shelley says, also in Pennsylvania, a woman reported to police she witnessed a white Hyundai Elantra with Washington plates. The Jewel says the prosecution does have a ton of evidence we do not know about. Yes, they do. He did seem to lack common sense. Hey, Mystical Bandit. I'm a hunter in Northwest Pennsylvania. Guy may be guilty of sin for all I know. Nothing is released about it. Well, I think there's a lot of information that's been released. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Heather says the Strava info is one run. That's what you guys know about. But as I shared with you, law enforcement, that's why I shared with you guys the information. Law enforcement did download all of it. So I can show you one run that he did. That doesn't mean that's the only time he ran or used Strava. Amelia, this is our head mod. For those of you that don't know, please give this video a thumbs up and say thank you to our mods. All right, let me get down to the comments. Thank you so much for your super chat. I know the AT blundered, priceless. Allison knows what it is. All right, I'm going to share it with you in just a second. Yeah, please. I think this is super chat worthy. If you guys want to do super chat, I am trying to save up for some new editing equipment. That would be so helpful if you want to. You don't have to, but it would be really nice. AOL 1968 says 4 times the first time out and gets it done. To me, that's a hard sell. All I'm saying, I have an open mind. An innocent man in jail for 1 year and 3 months is a huge case. I do believe they have him. Yes, I agree. And there's a reason he hasn't been able to get bail. Lauren says he studied SKs and was 28 years old. Correct. Heather says, with BK being formally educated in cloud forensics, what are the chances that he would allow anything to track when not using it? Well, it runs in the background. And I don't think a lot of people were that familiar with how Strava works. these new apps, we don't know. Overwhelming evidence. That's why there's no bail. I agree. All right. So let's get back to this. So we know that during the crime, he had his cell phone turned off or set to airplane mode. And a lot of people have wondered, why didn't he just leave the phone at home and just drive the phone and just leave the phone at home and leave it on, like watching videos on TikTok or something like that. Just leave it on, because those videos would just play and that would have provided him with an alibi. So let's talk about the real reason that BK might have taken his phone with him. And then we're going to dig into Strava a little bit more. So if these crimes were planned, as most of us believe, then it would have just made a lot more sense for BK to leave his cell phone at home. And I don't think it was accidental that he took it with him. I don't think it was an oversight. I think he took a calculated risk. And he may have been, remember I told you that, guys, that sociopaths don't feel anxiety. They don't feel fear like we do. So some of the things that might make you or I pause with anxiety or having nervousness about it might not make somebody like with this type of personality. And I'm basing this on his post that he made himself regarding his visual snow. The fact that he described basically what is considered depersonalization. He described himself as a sack of meat. He described viewing other people as sacks of meat. He described knowing that his father was a good man, but not feeling anything toward him. And he was at the time attributing this as something related to visual snow, but we know that that's probably not what that was. I do believe that these posts will be brought in as evidence. So I don't think the fact that he didn't have a cell phone was an oversight. I don't think he took it accidentally. I think he probably did try to figure out ahead of time. He made a calculated risk. He did try to figure out ahead of time where the CCTV cameras were. And we know in his route that he traveled to the crime scene, but especially going back, leaving the crime scene, that he took this roundabout route from leaving the crime scene. And I believe that it was his first priority to not get picked up on CCTV cameras, although I don't think he knew all of them. And I think that having the phone was critical to this, in that he used it for some directions to make sure he could get back to the house. So I don't think he was being careless. I think that his Achilles heel was the fact that he was overconfident that no one would ever suspect him as doing something like this. So I think he saw himself as being superior. I talked to you guys about the fact that I thought he had a superiority complex in past live streams. Just his face, where he's got his eyes are kind of big and wide and sort of bulging, and then he's got this pursed lips where he's just looking around, where he could just see he feels superior to other people. So I think that's the reason that people viewed him as being a loner. I got a lot of comments too that people believed, you guys, some of you guys believe that he did it, but that he couldn't have acted alone. But I just want to say that most of the profilers that have gone through this and looked at his personality did describe him as being a loner, and people that personally knew him, also described him as being a loner. We heard from the Seven Sirens that he was kind of creepy, that they had a like a notation card on him in their tavern at the bar that what he would go into back in Pennsylvania, that they sort of viewed him as odd or creepy. So I think, being that he was a loner type, this is one of the reasons why I don't think he had any help in doing this crime. So I'm going to talk about the slip up that Ann Taylor did, and then I'm going to talk more about Strava in just a second. Let me check in with chat. Let me see. Kimmy says most Ks have the first time of the majority of them never acted on this type of, I'm watching my words, prior to doing away with people, the rage builds up. Well, I think that there was, agree with you, Kimmy. I think there was a catalyst of events that happened that set this chain reaction into set off a chain reaction. And I think it was related to what was going on at school. I do think he had a superiority complex, not an inferiority. He saw himself as being superior to other people. And he would have, gotten off on the power trip. I showed you guys where he had broken into the WSU colleague's house, and did a break-in but didn't take anything. He staged it and installed video cameras and then used her Wi-Fi password and spied on her. That's really, really creepy. A lot of people have said, why didn't she come forward? Well, obviously she did come forward to law enforcement once she was arrested, and they looked at the cameras and know that he was spying on her. So obviously she did come forward with it. And people were like, well, are they going to add more charges? I don't know. They did in the Delphi Richard Allen case. They just added new charges against him a few weeks ago, so they can always add more charges on BK. JJ says, I'm conjecturing he got dog DNA on him. I don't know. We do know that they found animal hair. We don't know if this was matched to Murphy the dog or Buddy the dog, but I do believe what was happening at the university, the WSU University, I do believe this set off a chain reaction. I do think it set off problems, and that he became more and more enraged, and decided that he was going to take matters into his own hands. And I think the fact that Buddy the dog went missing, it could be a coincidence, but the dog disappeared on August the 21st. This was the day that BK got an email from his professor that he had the altercation with, that he was, quote, failing to meet expectations. So I think he would have been enraged. Stacy says Steve has been awfully complacent for him not to believe they have enough to get this guy. I don't know. I think he's saying as much as he can say, but he's under a gag order. Mike says, one animal hair found. Can't wait to hear if it's Murphy's. Yeah, Truth, I see your thing. That's fine. Do that. That works. Louise says, there were multiple cameras in that house that BK had technology to see where everyone was. That's how he knew where to go. I haven't found anything that there were cameras inside the 1122 King Road house. I haven't found anything like that. So no, there weren't multiple cameras inside the house. I'm talking about a WSU student. Allison says, cares about the unknown DNA. If you just got here, you'll have to back it up. I don't want to start over. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. You'll just have to back it up. Kimmy says they wouldn't have arrested him if enough evidence against him wasn't found. There's a lot of evidence against him that we've seen, and there's much more that we haven't seen under the gag order. I agree. Tara's here. Hey, people need to realize the internet, cell phone, and other devices are forever. Delete doesn't remove everything like some people think. No, you can't just delete everything off of it. They would have gotten a lot of information from this app. Gruncher says he doesn't seem to be as smart as he portrays himself. That's how they catch these guys. Sonia says, with Strava, I mapped it out on Google Maps where he went. Thanks. Cynthia says there could be data from other devices that back up the Strava. Yeah, I agree. Could be data, their cell phone pings, I think, and Strava together is what's going to help make the case. Jules says the technology of evidence the prosecution have is overwhelming. Shelley says she does not think he's a criminal mastermind. Hey, Jackie, glad you're here. Late is fine. Just back it up. I just don't want to go back and rehash information that we've already gone over. Adam says, is it normal for ads to pop up during a live stream? I don't know. I have premium. I'm assuming so. Kami says, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. Yeah, please do. Hey, Kami, it's good to see you. I saw you in the chat the other day. I just didn't want to disrupt the other chat. You know what I'm talking about. But I did see you said hi to me, and I really appreciated that. And Santo says, BK is not Kaiser Sose. DM says, agree, not all of them look like deranged geniuses. They just look like you and me. Mike says, who drives to an unknown neighborhood 10 miles away without their phone and map on them? He knew his way around, obviously. Micro Kimmy says, I used to hack phones, laptops as a career criminal, and then cleaned up my life up and started in Verizon tech support and then trained agents. Now I'm majoring in forensic psychology. You can never wipe a phone. I think that's so interesting. Hey, Jeff. If you're just joining us, you may want to back it up just so you can know what stuff that we've already gone over. Because you guys know I usually just get started. I'm going to check in with chat right now, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about Ann Taylor because she messed up on something. I'm going to share that, and we're going to dig more into the Strava. Christine says, why he always suited and booted like this? I think it's okay. I think that my feeling about the people wearing suits to court, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. I think it's better, especially if it's a high profile case like this. But I think that anytime something's televised, that it should be across the board. What makes me feel bad is that people, they don't, they don't put this across the board. So we have some people in jumpsuits and stripes and orange jumpsuits, and then we have other people in suits and ties. It just should be the same for everyone. But I think if they're going to have to be on camera, they should be allowed to wear something appropriate for court. I'm dying to know what Ann Taylor did. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. I'm just checking in with chat. Mike says, I'm hoping he writes something, but I don't know. Bryan won't fess up unless he's sitting on death row with all of his appeals exhausted and needs some attention. That's how Ted Bundy was, right? Remember at the end, that's when he wanted to say where his victims were. All right, so let me scroll down a little bit. Thank you so much, Brother Mike, for the super chat. I really appreciate it so much. I do put a lot of time into researching. It takes me hours and hours of researching to bring you guys a 1 hour live stream. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to be putting it toward the channel, just so you know. All right, so let me grab this really quick. Oh, cancel. Sorry, y'all. I'm just going to grab the hearing video. So I think this is really interesting. Oh, man. Let me grab this hearing for you guys. Okay. So Ann Taylor slipped up on the hearing. And I think this is why BK left so abruptly at the end. Hang on one second. Just trying to grab it. I just need to open the folder. Oh. Oh, I'm getting an error message. Okay. Let's see if I can grab it now. Let me try one more time. If I can't get it, we'll leave it and I'll just tell it to you, but it would be nice to share it with you. It's not letting me grab it. Okay, I'm getting an error message, so I'll tell it to you. I wanted to show it to you. Okay, so Ann Taylor was in. Those of you that watched the hearing know that BK left really abruptly. There was a lot of speculation on Twitter, like why did he leave so abruptly? Did you guys hear any of my stuff on Ann Taylor before I froze on my end? Let me scroll down and just let me catch. You can hear me again. Okay. So I don't know what happened. I froze on my end. So I just tried refreshing and rebooting. So I'm alive. Okay. Thanks, Yusaki me. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys can hear me. I couldn't see your questions. I went to check in with chat. So did you guys hear the Ann Taylor thing? Did you guys hear that part? Did you guys hear the Ann Taylor thing? Just tell me yes or no so I can know if I need to re-go through that again. No? Okay, let me just say it one more time. And when I go to edit, I will try to edit out this part where the thing froze. All right, so let me just grab this. So I could not grab the video. I'm not even going to try to grab it again. So basically, Ann Taylor did slip up. She said, and I think this is why BK was so upset and why he left so abruptly after the latest hearing. Let me know what you think about this. Okay, so everybody's telling me, no, you did not hear it. Okay, so sorry. I went through it all, but I guess I was talking to myself. Okay, so let's go through that. All right, so Ann Taylor, so John Judge, get this. Okay, so BK left abruptly. There was a lot of speculation at the time of what was being said, what happened. Why did he leave so early? Why did he leave so abruptly? Did he have to go to the bathroom? Why didn't he thank the defense team? It was just weird. He just like kind of huffed out. And maybe he was upset, but this is what went down. Okay, so John Judge says, quote, and this discovery you're talking about is a video of the car. I wanted to play the video, but when I tried to upload it, that's when everything froze. So I'm just going to not try to upload it. I'm just going to talk about it. So he says, and this discovery you're talking about is a video of the car. This is the question from Judge John Judge to Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor says, no. Judge John Judge says, what do you mean? Ann Taylor says, the video that we talk about is one that I think the state is going to use in its case that I don't have full video on. That I'm not talking about any video of Bryan's car. Basically, Ann Taylor confirms in the live stream that law enforcement, that the prosecution does have videos of the white Hyundai Elantra that are indeed Bryan's car. So this was all went down during the alibi thing, and I was so focused on the fact that they were giving her more time, because you're supposed to turn that alibi within 10 days once discoveries turned over, and that 10-day mark passed months and months ago. So we were in the chat, we were also focused on the fact that there was no hearing date being set and that she was being given even more time to come up with an alibi. And then she's complaining at this point that she wants the full video from the prosecution of BK. That I missed this until I went back and watched it again. So Ann Taylor says, and I quote, the video that we talk about is the one I think that the state's going to use in its case that I don't have full video on. And then she says that I'm not talking about any video of Bryan's car. Oops. 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 That's why he left so fast. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she messed up big time. No wonder he ran out of there. Truth exposed. Becky doesn't think that's what it means. Well, what do you think it means, Becky? Bryan's car, not the white car driving around. Exactly, Kimmy. Exactly. You guys can, this is the video of the hearing. I was trying to show it, and I'm scared to try to present it because when I tried to grab it, that's when everything froze. It is a big file because that hearing was an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and we did a pre-show on Reporter Room. So I think my whole video is like almost 2 hours. So it's probably the biggest file I've ever tried to upload. So it's not taking it. But I'll cut it down and put it into a separate video for you guys. So Kimmy says the video of the Elantra driving around. And then Ann Taylor says, no, not Bryan's car. So what she says is basically, and I have the hearing posted. It's up if you guys want to go back and play it. She basically admits that they have Bryan's car driving around. Oops. She's confirming it's Bryan's car. Exactly. Exactly. She messed up. So that's why he was so upset. The other video, right, Mike? Exactly. Her verbiage assigns ownership. Exactly. And Jazz thinks BK would have been seething. I think you're right. I think he would have been really, really upset. DM missed what Ann Taylor said. I'll read it one more time because it doesn't take long. So Ann Taylor did slip up. In my opinion, this is why I think BK left so early. I was trying to figure out what he was upset about. So we were going back through watching the video, and I was so focused in on the alibi during the live stream, I didn't catch it. So Judge John Judge asks Ann Taylor, ... And this discovery you're talking about is a video of the car. That's the question. And then Taylor says, no. And then Judge John Judge says, what do you mean? And Ann Taylor says, quote, the video that we talk about is the one I think the state's going to use in its case that I don't have full video on. That I'm not talking about any video of Bryan's car. She doesn't say the Hyundai. She doesn't say the Elantra. She admits it's Bryan's car. So basically, she has confirmed that all of the videos of the white Hyundai Elantra are Bryan's car. She knows it. That's why she had to put him in the car driving around, taking long drives. You guys can play back the live stream. I have it up on my page. Texas Ranger says, so there was a camera at the back of the apartments or 1122 King Road house. I don't know. Six Cents a Million says, could it be full footage of the police stops in Bryan's car? They were talking about the alibi that she wants to provide. So that was the context that it was in. I don't know that there was a camera at the back of the apartments or the 1122 King Road house. We know there were cameras, but we don't know all the cameras. The only camera we've seen is the Linda Lane footage. But we know from just the documentation that I showed you that WSU campus police and Pullman PD were provided with 5 different video camera CCTV of the Hyundai Elantra and trying to round up the suspect. So in my opinion, Ann Taylor just put him in the car. She just admitted it was his car. Words matter. Yes, I agree. Adam says, what? Oh, what a tangled weave of webs we weave. Yes. Martha says, one of his stop, he was very sure of getting on how not to sit at the intersection, gets into the night because everything has to go great that night so he doesn't get pulled over after the crime. I'm not sure what you're asking me. Go great so he doesn't get pulled over after the crime? I don't know. I'm not really sure what you're asking me. Can you clarify that for me, Martha? And I'll try to answer your question. Micro Kimmy says the 1122 King Road footage is more than likely what she requested because she only has a portion of it. Those cameras record motion, so it's probable several recordings lumped into one. Well, I think she wants to see if law enforcement has placed him in the car. I think she wants to know that. Allison says, no, y'all. She said it was in the context. Yeah, you have to have it in the context of what I'm describing. You have to watch it back for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. I have the video posted. You can watch it back. There's 2 or 3 cameras outside of the 1122 King Road on that street. Yeah. Wow. Yep. And Brother Mike says, was that 10 days waived for an alibi? Well, she got an extension and then she came up with the driving around. But then in this last hearing, she was talking about then coming up with another alibi for BK. They were going to have a better one. She just didn't have it yet. And the prosecution stood up and says, well, if they have one, I'm just summarizing. I'm not quoting that verbatim. The other thing I shared with you is a verbatim quote. This is just me summarizing. If they're going to change the alibi, we need to have it. And the reason for that is because you don't want to go to the expense of having all these hearings and seating a jury. If he's then going to say, well, I have footage of myself at the 7-Eleven at the time these crimes occurred, it couldn't have been me. So, that's why they have the 10-day rule. Well, apparently the 10-day rule doesn't apply. It applies to every other defendant in the state of Idaho except for BK. And Jess says, a big thank you to everyone who's here. Please, can you hit the like button, it would be really appreciated. Yes, it helps me out a lot. Mike says one directly in front and one down catching the 3-point turn. And we've only seen that one camera angle. So that's not the only camera angle that law enforcement has. We know just from what they turned over to campus police at WSU and Pullman PD that they had 5 different camera footages. I bet they have more than that. Jeff says it's interesting that his alibi is that he likes to drive around at night, that a light bulb camera that monitors in and out that leaves could show him 13 minutes after the stop. Robert says, it really wasn't me. I'm Bryan Kohberger. I like to go for a drive. Yeah, so is his alibi going to be fabricated? I feel like she wants to craft the alibi depending on what the prosecution has. And this is where the prosecution says, no, you don't get to have the videotape of whether we have pictures of him in the car. And that's what I was distracted with. And then I missed the forest for the trees. Mike says, I'm hoping there's a camera in the back lot. Yeah, we don't know. Kelly says, did anyone watch 1111 on the video about, it feels like you're, I haven't. Sirius Black says, why they want the cast report so much. Right, exactly. Brother Mike says he likes to drive around at night. It's mostly around 1122 King Road House. Exactly. So my big question is, did he like to take long drives after November 13th of 2022? When he went to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, did he go taking long drives then? Or was this just leading up to these crimes where I believe he was accessing Kaylee's Bluetooth? Truth Exposed says absolutely. Adam says, is driving around really an alibi? I don't know. Not good enough to me. Agree. 6 Cents a Million says Jessica clipped and posted the Taylor portion into a shorter video. I haven't. I have the whole video of the hearing posted, but I will if you guys want me to. Kimmy says people focus on the wrong point. They say that she said it wasn't Brian's car. It's like, dude, you're understanding it wrong. She placed him in the car. She admitted it was his car. She said Brian's car. She doesn't say the Hyundai Elantra. She says Brian's car. Shelley says they provided an alibi, so how can they now provide a new alibi? Well, the judge is letting her. I guess, different rules for BK compared to all the other defendants in Idaho. They all had to provide their alibi within 10 days, but he doesn't have to. Mike says, for sure, several ring cameras, CCTV, and traffic cams. Elizabeth Jo says, Casey Anthony is denied bond. Nope, she got out on bond. She was home. She was denied it, but then she got it. Micro Kimmy says, when have y'all ever heard of a suspect needing the evidence first before giving an alibi? That's not how alibis work. Allison agrees. And Jazz says, plus doorbell ring cams too. Yep. John says, love from Alaska. My friends and family, so I'm late. Oh, you go ahead and back it up because I have gone through a lot of great information. Robert says, is BK related to Don Wells? No. Mike said, not fair to be able to study the evidence and then create an alibi. And Jeff says, how truthful is a manufactured alibi? Exactly. I don't think you get to have to know all. That's not the purpose of the alibi. The purpose is if there's some kind of exculpatory evidence that's going to take you out of it, then you want to provide that. Thank you, Amelia. This is our head mod, Amelia. Thank you to our mods, channel members, and subscribers. Please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. I didn't get shut down, but my computer froze, so I had to reboot. I wasn't sure I was going to come back because I didn't know if it was a connection issue on my end or what happened. Sirius Black says he was never back in Moscow after the mornings of the crimes per cell phone records. We don't know. Not that we know of, but we don't know everything. Not that we know of. Great question. That's a great question. I love reading you guys' questions. Heather says, how can you defend yourself when you don't know the exact allegations against you? I would think I went through the affidavit already, so I'm not going to do it again tonight, but Ann Taylor was doing the damsel in distress. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how law enforcement arrived. They know what the charges were against him. It's the grand jury brought down an indictment that spelled out exactly what the allegations were against BK. So great question. All questions are welcome. Shelley says, providing a new alibi says to me they're clutching at straws. George Brown says, weird, I didn't get a notification for this live. I don't know. You should have. Hit the notification bell. So Paula, you'll have to back it up because I already went through it. Okay, just back it up a little bit. Becky says he needs to have a place and witnesses for his alibi. A. Linden up to going out. Okay. Heather says the charges have to be proven with evidence. How can you defend against evidence you've never seen? Well, here's the whole thing, Heather. They did spell out, the grand jury indicted him based on the information. Prosecutions turned over the evidence to the defense. So the Ann Taylor's, I don't know how they found my client, is kind of disingenuous, in my opinion. I think it's disingenuous on her part. Because they spelled out in the affidavit exactly how, and she has seen the evidence. She does have it. She admitted that it was his car. You already asked that. I don't know if I just grabbed the same one twice, but it's not a new alibi. It's an alibi that proves a place and witnesses. Grand jury indictment is barely more than probable cause. That's true. That's why we're going to have a trial. University of Idaho President Scott Green's family once owned the 1122 King Road house. And I get this too. My opinion is biased. Why is my opinion biased? Why? Because you don't agree with it? Maybe I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't care. In the Hannah Gutierrez case, I think I would have found, because of the OSHA information, I would have found for the defense on that. I got during the Alex Murdaugh case, I was accused of being pro defense team because I talked about Sheriff Andy Strickland. In this case, I'm all of a sudden pro. I'm just following the evidence. So maybe you've already have your mind made up. That might be it. But I'm just bringing you the information. So that's it. Mike says he gave his alibi. They want to create a new one through cross-examination. You can time him out, Amelia. Just put him in timeout if he's disrupting the chat. All opinions are welcome. If you're just posting nonsense, you can time somebody out if they're just being disruptive. Penny says, you want to try and prove they had IGG before the arrest warrant if the off chance they went against policy. But that's not what they're using at the trial. That's what Ann Taylor wants to talk about. She wants to talk about the IGG because that was the ancestry DNA. And I believe she's looking for a scapegoat. This is somebody that they will use to distract. It's a common tactic. But Ann Taylor wants to talk about the IgG, but that's not what the prosecution is using. They're using the cheek swab DNA that Ann Taylor does not want you guys to be talking about. Brother Mike is right. I'm following evidence. I'm bringing you guys information based on credible sources. This is a journalistic channel. And if you're interested in having all the information so you can make up your own mind, then you're in the right place. No matter what evidence is presented, there will never be enough to change some minds. Yeah, I agree. I think there's some people that have already made up their mind. And even if they have new information, they don't want to hear it if it challenges what they already believe. And that's fine. That's called confirmation bias. If you're just looking for a channel that will confirm what you already believe and you don't want new information, there's lots of channels that will do that for you. But I'm going to bring you guys information that's based on research. The civil liberties is only secondary to the defense strategy that Ann Taylor is going to use. I agree. Oracle says, oh my goodness, finally got to the part where you're talking about Ann Taylor and she's confirming BK's on the video. Can she be disbarred for that or even fired? I mean, I guess he could fire her. Defendants are innocent until proven guilty. Right. And but then we're having a discussion. So if you don't want to discuss the case, then I'm not really clear why you're in a chat watching this video, because we're going to discuss the case. If you just want to have somebody come on and just say he's innocent until proven guilty, and that's it, and you don't want to hear anything more than that, that's okay. I respect your right to do that, but I'm not really clear why you're watching this channel right now. Kimmy says, buccal swab matches the sheath swab. Exactly. They took a cheek swab. He didn't offer it. He didn't volunteer it. They had to get a court order. If you really wanted to exonerate yourself, you would have offered it. But Ann Taylor doesn't want you to talk about that. She wants to talk about the DNA, the IgG. So why is she so interested in getting that IgG information? I think there's a reason for it. I think she's looking for somebody she can, make it this. I'm trying to see if I can grab this hearing. Hello, reporter room investigator. Judge sets the date for the trial. So I just wanted to let you know. So let's go to where Ann Taylor says this.
We have to have contact with Mr. Kohberger's family. And that we're not, I don't think we're talking about that kind of investigation. I mean, that is your responsibility. It's also your responsibility to dig in wherever you have to. I mean, I think you're required to do that. So my balancing responsibility is to keep it in control to some degree. So
nobody said he doesn't have any emotion. He gets mad. I said he was enraged. I just don't think he has the same anxiety or emotions that most people do. That's all. All right, let's continue.
I guess what I'm asking is that I have some justification for making contact with certain families that may have no bearing whatsoever on the case, unless it's in mitigation or something like that. Now, the DNA issues, maybe especially in the IgG, it has to have some relevance if there's some context. Okay.
Can you guys hear this okay? Let me know. Put a 1 if you can hear it.
That connects to the case itself. That's how I'm looking at it. I might be wrong, but so you can respond. Okay.
All right. We're talking about a couple of different things here. With our request for clarification, I was talking specifically about people that are already known to our team that we may be in contact with. Bryan's direct family, parents, sisters, aunts and uncles.
And those I interrupt you just for 1 second. That has no relevance to the IgG information that you were given.
Those are people we already knew before.
Okay.
So I want clarification that I can continue to talk to the Kohberger family.
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm not running afoul of court order. I want to be appropriate. I want to be really clear who I'm asking for to have access to the IgGs. It's not our mitigation investigator. That our mitigation investigator, I think the court heard me talk about going 3 generations back to do her work. That's required under the AVA. I'm not talking about her. She wouldn't have access to this. I'm talking about our criminal investigators dealing with the innocent space for Bryan. Those are the people that I think should have access to the same materials under the same protective order. They're not doing the generations back. None of the IgG materials would be used for that part of the mitigation work. She's doing her own thing, our mitigation investigator.
And this was chilling, in my opinion. She wants to get the IGG. So imagine if you're a distant relative of BK, which is what this probably is, someone who's distantly related to him. And you're just going on this ancestry 1, 2, 3 type of thing to try to find out about your family. Maybe you were adopted or something like that. But you're going to get dragged in by this defense attorney into a case that has nothing to do with you. If you can't provide an alibi, maybe you have a little bit of a criminal record and you happen to be related to this guy. She wants access, and the judge is telling her no. But it's chilling that she wants to have access to all the names, not for mitigation, not to have his relatives come in and speak on his behalf, but so that she can put up what I am referring to as a straw man, which I guess it's confusing people. They're thinking I'm talking about the straw man argument. But what I'm talking about is she wants to put up an alternative suspect. So imagine if you're using this and you happen to have, maybe you have a little bit of a criminal record or something like that, and you weren't anywhere near this case. She wants to bring you in as a straw man, as a alternative suspect, is how I'm using the word straw man. Think about how chilling
looking
that
backwards as she's supposed to at the things she needs to. That's not the IGG materials. So putting aside that investigator and thinking of only our criminal investigators that are going to be dealing with our innocence phase of the case. Those are the investigators that I'd like to have access. They're the investigators that participate in the meeting with our experts. They're the investigators that help us put the timeline together to understand different things that were happening in the case before Bryan's name was ever spoken by anybody. And we're missing that big piece about why was Bryan's name spoken and how does that connect to the other pieces that we have. That's what our criminal investigators are going to do. They're not looking at IGG materials, if allowed, to do any of the mitigation work.
So she's admitting that they don't want it for mitigation. And mitigation means that's when if you're found guilty, that's part 2 of the trial. If he's found guilty, then she has to come in and have people come forward and say what a great person BK was, or there was something in his background as a kid, something that he went through, some horrible childhood trauma. She's telling the judge it's not for that. She wants to use it to find an alternative suspect. So imagine if you have a little bit of a criminal record and one of your relatives uses this site, or maybe you've used this site, and you want to be dragged into this. The judge said no.
Separate and apart. So I want to make sure that that's really clear. Also, when we're talking about whether something is relevant or not, I think that we're thinking of the standard for information to come out in court. That's not what I'm talking about. The court found that the IGG information was material under the discovery rules to the defense and allowed us to have access to some. It's for that same purpose and under that same rule that we're asking the court to allow our investigators to have access to the same materials. Whether or not any of this is something that comes into the court or into trial, that's a question to be answered later. I can see how, I think, this is why I'm really happy to have our experts involved, but I can see a way that there may be a motion practice that happens that relates to this. I'm not there yet.
That's where I am. Because if you have these experts, okay, go through this. I've been through all this information. And so if you can go, using your experts, and your experts kind of can tell me and state that you need to investigate particular people, okay, that were involved in this, then we can have a hearing about it.
So what the judge is basically telling me is if you have an expert that can tell me that there's someone that you want to get their ancestry DNA, you want to drag their name into the case. If you want to have drag them into the case, you have to be able to show me that they had some involvement. If not, no, you cannot have this information. So this is the information she's claiming that she's complaining that she doesn't have. So just imagine if you use this site and you happen to be distantly related to this guy getting dragged into this case as an alternative suspect. You can see where the judge is putting some parameters on.
But I'm not quite ready to be convinced that without getting this information from the experts, that we're gonna find some pathway. Okay.
I'm saying she's looking for an alternative suspect. That's why, and the judge said, no, she can't do
That's
that.
going to be helpful to Mr. Kohberger.
If, I mean, so
I don't know.
courtroom, so if that's what you want to do, we can. I'm here. We waited a while to come to this hearing. I'm asking for it all with a protective order. If we do it the other way, we can do it. It's just everything takes time. And if that's the preference, that's okay. The court knows and would order us to not reach out to any of the people in this material, and we wouldn't do any of that. If we have a motion to file that references any of the content of the materials, that would be filed under seal. These are sealed items. If there was a hearing, I would guess the court would have a chance to look at the filings before granting me a hearing and hear from the state, and that would be sealed. I'm not asking our investigators have access to run out and start interviewing people. I'm asking they have access to not be shut out of conversations, considering what this means and how our client came to the attention of law enforcement, and to plug things into the timeline of us trying to understand how we got from November 13th to December 29th. That's it. Not to go out and.
She says she can't understand how they got from when the crimes were committed on November 13th of 2022 to when BK was arrested. I walked you, it's literally spelled out in the affidavit. We walked through that together on a previous live stream. So again, this is like, damsel in distress. I just don't know. So I think this is so disingenuous on her part. I think she should, if she wants to have some credibility, I just think this is not the way to go.
Try to talk to people. I can just see that there's a potential motion to be filed, but that wouldn't be contacting anybody at all. That would be a motion for the court.
That's reassuring. I mean, that's one of the concerns. I mean, pulling a lot of other people into the case that, are completely innocent and don't even have any connection to the situation. So let me go back to Ms. Jennings. Do you have any response to any of this?
Oh, Your Honor, I'll just reiterate that Ms. Taylor keeps discussing their ability to just understand the timeline. Again, you're very familiar with the materials. Understanding the timeline and how we got from November 13th to December 29th is all laid out in that letter.
So prosecution, now we learn from watching this that the prosecution actually gave her a letter spelling out how they got from November 13th to the arrest of BK. But I guess she doesn't want to read it, or she wants to pretend she doesn't have it. She wants the headline to be, she doesn't have everything she needs. They're withholding stuff from me. My client is the underdog in this. That's what Ann Taylor wants, in my opinion.
None of the other materials are going to answer their questions regarding the timeline. So ask that they be given access to that, named investigators, to that letter.
Thank you. You may remember a few hearings in the past that the state, from the very beginning, said there was no, that played no I don't know how to even, it wasn't, when I asked them in the hearing that, did you use the IDG, any of the information of the IDG to get the warrant, to get Mr. Kohberger's DNA, that was not part of it. So in terms of the time frame, don't know that it's that complicated, because a lot of what happened in the time frame happened before that. Now, that's up to you to dig into that, obviously, but there was a lot of information in the letter too. just their sequence.
So even the judge is saying the information was in that letter, but she's, what does she want the prosecution to do? Should they stand up in court and read the letter to her? I mean, you have to, she's going to have to read it. I just found this to be so disingenuous.
Of using the IgG at all. So we're going to have to sort this out, obviously. But going back to what
I
I would
agree.
like to do is just get some justification for digging in deeper, if necessary. And I'm not sure it's necessary, but I'm going to keep an open mind about that. So for right now, I would say, let's just get your experts looking at the IgG stuff and exactly what they can read from that. And we'll go from there. Okay. Now, with regard to your clarification, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that your investigators can't contact people that they've already contacted.
Right. She makes over $200 an hour, and she's going to make around $380,000+ this year. Just to compare that with the average public defender in Idaho, they make about $54,000 a year. Just want to compare and contrast that. She's making good money, so she can read the letter, in my opinion. But she wants the headline to be the defense can't get what they need, because she knows people will fall for it. She knows that she only needs one juror. And the prosecution's saying and the judge is even telling her, you have it. You already have it. Yes, she wants it highlighted. I agree. She wants that to be the headline. It's a win for her and for BK. He stays and drags out the spotlight. Micro Kibbe wants to know, why does she need someone to slowly break it down for her, being that she's a trained professional over a year and in establishing an alibi? I don't know. Again, I just feel like it's disingenuous.
Without relying on the IgG information. That work for now.
Yes, Your Honor. Our mitigation expert has done her own family tree based on her work, and she has nothing to do with the IgG material. She's not an expert that would have access to that. She's not named. So she needs to keep doing what she's doing as far as her work goes. And I think the proper clarification is that the IgG materials will not be used to develop any investigative leads.
I think that's fair. And what Ms. Jennings proposed in language in their response to your motion, is that something that you would object to at this point? I'm sure you probably read that language.
I did read it. It's a little bit less straightforward, but I think it covers it. It allows me to continue to speak to the people I'm speaking to and that I need to speak to that are on my list.
Okay. Anything else about that?
No.
These issues. Okay. Ms. Jennings?
No.
Okay, great. Okay, the next question I had is, I know that
No, he has a team of lawyers.
Mr. Kohberger filed for permissive appeal to the Supreme Court, and I just wondered what you know about that, because I have heard nothing about that. I know it was filed.
I know the state filed their objection, and that's the last that I recall seeing about it.
Yes. So at this point, we don't know if the Supreme Court is going to take it. Okay, we don't know that. You know anything else, Mr. Thompson?
Not other than the state's response was filed by the appellate division of the Attorney General's office. And I think we're just waiting to hear from the Supreme Court at this point.
Correct, Your Honor. we're just waiting to hear from the Supreme Court. I can tell you there's no deadline in the rule for them. They didn't include a deadline for themselves. And in my experience, it can take anywhere from a couple weeks to a month or so. So at this point, we're just waiting to hear.
So I don't know the answer to this. If it's filed, does that pause what we need to do here, or do we just pause it only when they pick it up?
My read of the rules, Your Honor, is the latter, that we continue as we are unless and until they decide to take it, and then they would decide at that point what exactly is paused and not paused.
Okay, thank you.
You didn't, Gail. Don't worry. No worries. We're
Anything
good.
else about that? Ms. Taylor?
No, thank you, Chair.
Mr. Thompson?
No, sir.
All right, I think we're now to schedule. Starting with, there was a request on change of venue, maybe late April, you were saying.
Yes, Your Honor, either that last week of April, I think it starts the 29th and 30th, or
I'm just going to fast forward a little bit.
Okay,
we finally are up to the eve of trial and there ends up being a whole new dump of discovery.
okay. Ms. Taylor, so if things aren't going perfectly, of course they never do.
They never do, Judge, they never do. And I'll say it again, death is different. This is a capital case. I've heard the court say the court only wants to do it once. And I've heard the court ask, what can I do to speed things up? I need discovery. I need all of the discovery. I need the things that we've asked for. I need to not have to fight in motions to compel for things that was done.
Remember, what did she say she didn't have? She didn't know how the prosecution had led it to, but let's listen in. The judge, you can look at his body language. I mean, it just sort of says it all.
On behalf of the state by the FBI that ends up being used against Bryan or used in the investigation. I need that stuff. I need, when I ask for something, I need to get it rather than have to go back and ask and ask and ask again. And I'm not saying anything mean about Bill Thompson. I'm just not. I think
Well, she kind of is. She's throwing shade at Bill Thompson for sure.
he tries his very best, but I think he's hampered by the agencies and the information he gets from them. I can give you some examples. We asked for x-rays. We were told they don't exist. They're listed repeatedly in reports. We asked for them again. And I'm not sure if I'm getting them or not. The response is we have thumbnails, but we haven't found the actual x-rays. There's one example. I asked for certain mapping data done by a member of the CAS team. They said, you have it all. I said, no, I don't. I only have November 29th. They said, oh, well, I guess we just didn't get that. Something didn't copy right. And I'm not saying anything mean about Bill or his office.
I think if you have to put in your comment that you're not saying anything mean repeatedly, that you are, and that you are. It's like almost asking to be excused for being rude. I don't mean to be rude, but have you guys heard that? I don't mean to be mean, but, and you can just see the judge because she has everything, but she wants to have her client portrayed as the underdog because it benefits him.
I'm saying this is really difficult to drag the information out and get it to my experts or to understand it. And to hear that we're going to have a discovery deadline by the end of August is great. I need to have every piece of everything. I then have to have time to double check and make sure I really got it. I need to have time to get it to my experts and for them to have an opportunity to understand how that impacts their opinions, if at all. So I'm prepared for this case. And then we need time to get things to the state and for them to respond to what we send to them too. I know that this court wants to set this trial. These kinds of cases don't happen in a year. They don't happen in 2 years. They take a long time. This case is challenged with the way discovery has come at us. I'll give you another example. I open up, I get them and I list them in my computer by date. At one point, I gave the court a printout of that so the court could see how I'm getting it. And when I look in a folder, it has subfolders. And I might get
Yes.
some reports from Moscow Police Department with an FBI report. And an FBI report might reference an email. It might reference a photograph. It might reference a screenshot of a picture or of a phone that they took when they interviewed somebody. That's not with it. So maybe a few months later, I get some photos that has these screenshots in. And now I have to try to figure out who gave that screenshot, whose phone did that come from, which officer did that interview, and get them matched up and figure out if it's somebody I need to talk to. So not only do we have a huge volume of information, the way I get it is completely disorganized. And it's like if you wanted to play 52 card pickup with 100,000 decks of cards and throw them in the air, and I have to go figure out how to put them together. And by the way, the backs of every one of those cards look the same. That's what I'm doing. We also have science questions in this case. We have DNA, we have cell phone analysis, we have video analysis. The video analysis that the state really likes in this case, I don't have the full scope of that video with audio that
Okay, here we go.
should be available. They're working on it. They really are. I don't think they're not working on it. I'm just saying this is a real thing that takes time. And then you have the public nature of this case, and people don't want to talk to us. They're not wanting to talk to us. So we have to try to get witnesses, people that are listed in the state's discovery, to talk to us. We have our duties that are required with mitigation because there's no break. I don't get to go to trial on the innocence phase. And then if something goes wrong and Bryan's not acquitted, I don't get time to go prepare that mitigation. I have to take another breath and start right there. So I have to have time to do all of that. Our mitigation expert is working as quickly as she can. She is meeting a lot of resistance to collect records and to conduct interviews. We're working through that as best we can. She has travel obligations to try to interview people. These things take time. I want all the discovery by the end of August. I love the discovery deadline by September 6th. That does not allow me enough time to get ready for trial by March 3rd. That deadline, that cutoff for us to get mitigation materials, that's impossible. That's just impossible. We've got the year pretty well scheduled out with what travel still needs to happen and what records still need to be obtained. So to have that to the state, I think they said by September, October, that's just impossible. I would request that this court take up our venue motion in May, make a decision on venue, and let's see where we can get with the discovery. I still need to read every bit of discovery that's come, and I haven't. I scan it when I get it, but to go page by page and read it and understand what it means, I'm not through 2023. I have a long ways to go. So I don't think that is realistic to set it. I think if you set it for March, I'm going to be back here after the discovery deadline, and I'm going to be telling you there's no way that we're going to be ready for trial. I would rather this court set the change of venue, make that determination. Let's see where we get with the discovery by May. Probably the court would have a decision by the end of May, early June. Let's see where we are with discovery by then and set a realistic day. I hope we can go by summer of 2025.
Well, thank you, Ms. Taylor. I can help in any way to speed things with, if there's problems with discovery, I'm happy to do that on very short notice. Just so that we can keep going. But you say, it'd be fantastic if you got all the discovery by August. Your mitigation person has been working already, right? And just to know that I'm not being insensitive about this, I did read the ABA supplementary guidelines for mitigation function of defense teams in death penalty cases, and it's huge. Okay, I get it. There are so many things that if you don't do, then it comes back as, well, you were ineffective. And those standards are high standards, for sure. And obviously it takes a lot of time. So, but I'm also thinking, if you get all the discovery, if you can, assuming that, which may be inaccurate, for the end of August.
Thank you so much, AO 1968. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah, my heart breaks for them too. Yeah, all opinions are welcome. Just express them in a polite way.
You're saying that you wouldn't be able to respond to all of that, assuming that it's even earlier, that you could not be ready for the beginning of March 2025.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying I love that discovery deadline. Let's shoot for that. And I think that would help me make a June 2025 trial. I think once we have that discovery, and I agree, we can file the challenges to the death penalty earlier, but the challenges to some of the things that are going to be contained in discovery, those we need to see it all and see how it interplays. I can do some things early, but I may be coming back and asking the court to reconsider if it doesn't go our way and we found something that we didn't have. I think a discovery cutoff is great. And I think the court has to manage that discovery. If we finally are up to the eve of trial and there ends up being a whole new dump of discovery, then the court has to look at that discovery and understand, is it exculpatory? Is it something that we didn't have a chance to prepare for and should be excluded? If it relates to anything to do with the death penalty portion of the case, then the court's going to be asked to strike the death penalty. I mean, the discovery deadline is critical in this case. So I love that. I love that. What that means, if I have all the discovery by the end of August this year, it means that there is a stopping point where I can know I have it all. So I can confidently get the motions filed. I can confidently tell my experts, this is it. This is the scope of what you have to do. And I can have some space to read it all and understand it and get ready for witnesses too. If the court makes that deadline, know that mitigation is not going to be done by then. But if the court makes that discovery deadline and then we follow that with our motion practice and then our deadlines for expert disclosures and whatever's going to come from that and our mitigation, we should be in good shape by June of 2025 to try the case. If we have that discovery come up, I think that's a great idea.
Ms. Taylor, Mr. Thompson.
Trying to figure out where to start first. Yes, discovery is fast. Yes, there have been things that Mr. Kohberger has asked for that we've inquired, and we were initially told, no, you don't have that. And then we have gone back at the prompting of defense saying, you sure? I mean, it ought to be there. And for example, x-rays for the autopsy. Well, we just got those. The first came in with thumbnails. In today's discovery, Ms. Taylor's going to have the full size, which we were able to obtain when we saw he gave us thumbnails. These are useless. Give us the real thing. And through the coroner's office, we were able to finally achieve that. According to Ms. Jennings, we are better than 95% complete on discovery. So we're getting close. There are some things that are outstanding. There are some issues with what information is actually available to us. We have given Mr. Kohberger everything that we have that we haven't asked for a protective order on or had some sort of dispute about. And we've given it to them, and frankly, in the order it's come in, instead of waiting to try to package it together and give it to them in a different format, just because they want it as quickly as possible. And I appreciate that. And we're going to continue doing that. It's going to benefit to have deadlines for everybody to have to work for here. I don't think just setting a deadline for state's discovery does anything other productive. other than that initial stage. So if we're going to set discovery deadlines, we need a state's discovery deadline. We need a defense discovery deadline within a reasonable time after that and a reasonable time before trial, because we're going to then have to investigate whatever the defense tells us they might be using. And then, of course, an opportunity after we see what the defense is proposing or is disclosing to rebut that in some fashion and give notice of that. So that package of 3 days are important. Pre-trial motion on the death penalty, I think that's important. We need deadlines, so we just get it done and over with. And both teams can prioritize based on the timelines what needs to be done when. I don't know the first thing about what's going on with defense's mitigation. Apparently it's been going on for a while. It sounds like it's going to be massive. That's something that we just don't have any insight to. We think that our proposals are realistic. We appreciate the fact that something could happen where it turns out that they aren't realistic, that something happens and we have to revisit. And
Yes, it will. It will.
I think we need to be prepared to do that. I think the last thing that I want to touch on real quick is the proposal to set a state's discovery deadline.
They had the thumbnails. They didn't have the originals, Heather. He just didn't have the originals. Remember, the prosecution has to go through all of this also, not just the defense.
And set hearings on the change of venue is inadequate. As we've indicated, change of venue under the law, that motion is premature. We need to be able to give the court the benefit of what impacts publicity, for example, is having on our actual jury pool. We know there's publicity. Everybody can agree. There's been massive publicity, not just in Latah County, but I see more about it in Boise or hear about it from other parts of the state.
I'm just going to skip over this little part. I think he mutes his mic here.
Discussing calling upwards of 400 witnesses during the innocence phase when we don't have, potentially don't have a full alibi disclosure.
Okay, here we are. So the judge has his mic
How do you
muted here.
feel
There he goes.
about afternoon of May 20th? That's a little far out, but we've already been talking about maybe having a trial starting in June. So
Your Honor, can I have it before May 25th? A witness I anticipate is not going to be available starting May 25th. Starting May 25th, I think, for 2 weeks. So if I could have it ahead of May 25th, that way we
if you have a
can.
jury trial that week, May 20th. This afternoon of May 14, give you enough time, Ms. Beatty.
That was May 14th, Your Honor.
May 14, that's Tuesday.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll say, how about 1:30?
Sounds great, Your Honor.
Okay, 1:30, May 14. I am going to make a determination about that presentation on change of venue before I set the trial. It could still be March 3rd, or maybe beginning of June. Yeah, that's 2024. I know. I'm just still thinking of 2024, but it's hard. It is hard for me to think it is so far out. But I'm listening carefully to both sides, and it's a complicated case, and it's a death penalty case, and that adds a lot of, it really does. So I'm gonna hold, I would like you to send me, your scheduling list, and I will think about that. We're going to have a deadline of September 6th for discovery from the state. And Ms. Taylor, did you say beginning of January?
Yes.
Okay, January, give me a date.
9.
9th, okay, good job. All right, and that'll be 2025, Ms. Beatty.
Could we address one more deadline briefly?
Yes, of course. You all give me deadlines. I'll write them down.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's been an ongoing discussion beginning most recently with the state's request for scheduling order, and I believe Ms. Taylor briefly addressed it at the last hearing. There's been an ongoing discussion about the alibi deadline, and the state is asking the court to either limit the defendant to presenting evidence about the disclosure that he made related to the alibi, which was that he was driving around the night of the homicides, but not allowing any further discussion or evidence of an alibi, given the amount of time that has passed since the state requested that alibi disclosure. Alternatively, since it was in the court's scheduling order initially prior to the trial getting vacated, we would ask the court to set a 10-day deadline now, because that is consistent with the alibi statute. The state does not believe it is appropriate to tie the alibi to the jury trial date in this case. The statute that sets forth that 10-day timeline is completely separate from Rule 16 and other discovery deadlines through the litigation process. I think at this point, there has been so much time that has passed, and it has frankly causes the state great alarm that the defense is discussing calling upwards of 400 witnesses during the innocence phase when we don't have, potentially don't have a full alibi disclosure. And when you look at cases regarding appeals from issues that arise during alibis that come up at trial, these cases are all defendants appealing a conviction because the state doesn't get a second chance. If the state gets ambushed at trial, that's it for us. We're asking the court to hold the defendant to a fair alibi deadline, and I think that the time has come. Thank you, Your Honor.
My understanding was that was it, but I may be wrong. Ms. Taylor.
No. When the court
Here we go.
vacated the trial setting, the court vacated all of the deadlines, including the alibi deadline. That wasn't carved out as one that was still held through when the court vacated the rest of its scheduling order. So I don't think that we're foreclosed from that. The court also has the ability to give an extension besides the limited time by statute. In this case, it's more than Bryan was just driving around. We have let the state and the court know that we expect that will be supported by expert testimony and by cross-examination of the state's experts. I need their full cast report and the rest of the discovery related to that before I can say more about that. So to tie me to a deadline when I don't have the rest of the discovery that I've been waiting for that would relate to that will mean that I will be back asking the court to reopen it. My expert can't finish until I get the rest of the discovery as well.
And the discovery you're talking about is a video of the car.
No.
This is it.
What do you?
So the video that we talk about is one that I think the state's going to use in its case that I don't have full video on, that I'm not talking about any video of Bryan's car. When I'm talking about an alibi.
Did you catch it? So she says, the judge says, and this discovery you're talking about is a video of the car? Ann Taylor says, no. Judge says, what do you mean? Ann Taylor says, the video that we talk about is the one I think the state is going to use in this case that I don't have full video on, that I'm not talking about any video of Bryan car. So basically, she's confirming that all of the videos of the white Hyundai Elantra are indeed Bryan's car. Let's listen back one more time.
Disclosure that he made related to the alibi, which was that he was driving around the night of the homicides, but not allowing any further discussion or evidence of an alibi, given the amount of time that has passed since the state requested that alibi disclosure. Alternatively, since it was in the court's scheduling order initially prior to the trial getting vacated, we would ask the court to set a 10-day deadline now, because that is consistent with the alibi statute. The state does not believe it is appropriate to tie the alibi to the jury trial date in this case. The statute that sets forth that 10-day timeline is completely separate from Rule 16 and other discovery deadlines through the litigation process. I think at this point, there has been so much time that has passed, and it has frankly causes the state great alarm that the defense is discussing calling upwards of 400 witnesses during the innocence phase when we don't have, potentially don't have a full alibi disclosure. And when you look at cases regarding appeals from issues that arise during alibis that come up at trial, these cases are all defendants appealing a conviction because the state doesn't get a second chance. If the state gets ambushed at trial, that's it for us. We're asking the court to hold the defendant to a fair alibi deadline, and I think that the time has come. Thank you, Your Honor.
So listen to this exchange, guys. And then I'm gonna
No. When
we're gonna listen to Ann Taylor and the John Judge's exchange one more time, and then I'll go to the end where BK runs out. Okay, I'll fast forward to the end.
the court vacated the trial setting, the court vacated all of the deadlines, including the alibi deadline. That wasn't carved out as one that was still held through when the court vacated the rest of its scheduling order. So I don't think that we're foreclosed from that. The court also has the ability to give an extension besides the limited time by statute. In this case, it's more than Bryan was just driving around. We have let the state and the court know that we expect that that will be supported by expert testimony and by cross-examination of the state's experts. I need their full cast report and the rest of the discovery related to that before I can say more about that. So to tie me to a deadline when I don't have the rest of the discovery that I've been waiting for that would relate to that will mean that I will be back asking the court to reopen it. My expert can't finish until I get the rest of the discovery as well.
And the discovery you're talking about is a video of the car.
No,
This is it.
What are you?
So the video that we talk about is one that I think the state's going to use in its case that I don't have full video on, that I'm not talking about any video of Bryan's car. When I'm talking about,
She's not talking about any video of Bryan's car. So now let's fast forward to the end. Thank you for patiently waiting with me. Whoop. I think I did let me see where we got of when he exits the courtroom. Hold on. Should be right here.
So that gives you some cushion. I'm not going to set it for 10 more days, but I understand that that's setting that. And the reason for that is so we don't have ambush at the trial. I mean, that's why that is established as a law. Okay.
So how mad do you think BK was when she admits that it was his car? Oops.
Well, I think we've gotten somewhere. And is there anything else we need to address today, Mr. Thompson?
I don't believe so, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
no, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
So no thank you to his defense team. No thank you to the judge. Just looks to me like he either is running to the restroom, maybe he had to go to the bathroom, or he's furious.
Address today, Mr. Thompson?
And rightfully so.
I don't believe so, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, Amelia.
Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Not one word of thanks, no eye contact, nothing, just walks away. So that, guys, is the slip up that Ann Taylor gave. And this is why And normally he would just say thank you or make eye contact with them, give them a little nod, something. Nothing. He just exits. So maybe he just had to go to the bathroom, or maybe he was absolutely furious that she admitted that it was his car during the hearing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. And I just want to thank our producers, George Brown, Jane J, Sasha Angel, our channel members. If you would like to be a channel member and have your name appear in all of our live streams and our videos, feel free to hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button. And if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new information, because I'm going to continue to dig and investigate into all of the different aspects of this case. Let me know if you would like me to dig into the Snapchat portion next. What do you guys want me to look into next? Leave me a comment below, and I will do my best to accommodate what you guys want. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.